eu já falei anteriormente, se você tiver um passaporte de algum desses países que foi citado, Portugal, Japão, Itália ou alguns países da América Latina que possuem fazem parte desse tratado com os Estados Unidos, você pode conseguir.
Okay,
And the great thing about this type of visa is that you can continuously renew the visa and seek extensions as long as that business and investment are still active in the United States. And so you can, in theory, reside for many, many years in the US on an E2 visa. For many countries, it operates as a 5-year multiple entry visa, and you continuously just keep renewing that. So it's a great option for those individuals that just want access to the United States and they don't want to have to worry about spending too much time in the US. Or they could, if they want to come and go freely, they don't want to worry about having to make sure that they're not being a tourist too much or traveling on a tourist entry too much. This is a great option.
Paula?
Yes. Então, esse visto ele é muito bom para quem quer andar livremente de um país para outro, ou não quer passar muito tempo nos Estados Unidos. E é um visto que você pode continuar renovando, contanto que seu investimento ainda esteja nos Estados Unidos.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, how is the tax system of Brazil different from the US? I'm pausing so you could, yeah. Paula?
Sorry, can you repeat?
How is the tax system of Brazil different from the US?
Okay. Como o sistema de impostos é diferente do Brasil, entre o Brasil e os Estados Unidos?
So that is quite a complex and involved response, obviously. And we've done a 1 or 2 hour podcast on that before. So if you have a look at our website, hej.tax, the information is there. Paula? Every time I pause, you can go. Yeah.
Yes, I'm typing so that I don't, then I don't. Sim, ele informou que para essa pergunta já temos disponível no website um podcast de mais ou menos 1 ou 2 horas, para quem quiser.
Okay, and this hej.tax. So, but in short, the systems are quite similar because there's tax at the federal level as well as at the individual state level.
Os sistemas são bem similares por conta dos níveis estaduais.
Okay. And when you are tax resident in the US, just like you are in Brazil, you're going to be taxed on your worldwide income. So including income that arises from outside of the US.
E se você for residente fiscal nos Estados Unidos, você vai ser taxado pela sua renda global. Então, independe do país em que você recebeu, perdeu a renda.
So we always recommend that people get adequate tax planning in advance of a move, in this case from Brazil or Portugal to the US.
Então, é sempre recomendado que vocês procurem uma consultoria antes de se mudar em relação aos impostos.
Okay. And ideally, the tax planning has to be done quite far in advance, perhaps a few years, in order to take advantage of some of the tax planning opportunities.
E, idealmente, seria melhor que fizesse com alguns anos antes de se mudar, para que você possa usufruir de alguns benefícios.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is about visas again, Mike. So someone is asking about the E2 visa. Now you went into that in a bit of detail in the previous response. So I guess what I'd want to ask to give it, more flavor, I guess, is how can you, or is it possible to convert from an E2 to a green card once you're in the country?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so on my last response, I pretty much just focused on E2, but there is another visa. It's for green cards, and it's permanent residency option. It's called EB5. And
Right.
this has been very popular for Brazil over the years. We've had many Brazilian EB5 investors. And just in a very quick summary, this is an investment visa where the minimum investment is either $800,000 or 1.05 million, depending on where your investment is. And there's ways to do this EB5 program very passively, where you loan money to large developers, for example, that build large projects like hotels, motels, commercial residential property. And you're basically loaning the money for a period that's about 4 or 5 years, and then your money's returned to you. You have permanent residency. That's the passive way to do EB5. There's another way where you can invest again in your own business. You hire 10 people and they have to be green card holders or US citizens. And this is your own company, your investment, and either 800,000 or 1.05 million, depending on where that business is located. In a rural area, in a high unemployment area, the government reduces that amount to 800. Otherwise, it's 1.05 million, and you have to create 10 jobs. So we talked about E2. I just mentioned EB5. That goes straight to a green card. Now,
Yeah.
if you do E2 and you make that smaller investment into your own business, you can do what's called E2 conversion. And that's increase your investment level up to the EB5 immigrant investor level. And then you can get residency based on that initial investment you started with the E2.
Okay. Paula? I know that's a lot.
Yeah, it was long, but I'll try to
Yeah.
make what is possible. Então, ele informou que tem essa outra opção de visto, que seria o EB5, mas que o investimento mínimo é de $800.000 a 8,5 milhões, dependendo de onde seu dinheiro estiver. E nesse caso, você pegaria um empréstimo para depois ter o seu dinheiro devolvido após 5 anos. O segundo seria abrir o seu negócio, também no mesmo valor mínimo, que seria de 800 mil ou 1,5 milhões de dólares, mas você teria que gerar 10 empregos. E também, por último, ele citou a conversão do E2 do EB5, que aí o valor do seu E2 seria convertido para o EB5, pelo que eu entendi.
Okay. So we focused on the E2, the EB5, but there's also the L1 as well, right? Go ahead, comment.
Yeah, the L1 visa, it's called the intra-company transferee visa. And so this allows, for example, if you have a manager or an executive and you have your own company in Brazil, and then you want to set up a related office in the United States, like a branch, affiliate, subsidiary, you can start that new business in the US and transfer yourself over to run that company as an L1. And so can be viewed as an investor visa as well, because you're making an investment in a new company. The government just calls it a transferee visa because you've got to have a foreign company and you have a US company and you're transferring executives and people back and forth.
Gotcha. Understood. Paula?
Sim. Ele citou também o L1, que seria no caso das pessoas que já têm uma empresa no Brasil e gostariam de ter essa mesma empresa, este mesmo negócio nos Estados Unidos. Aí você poderia abrir com visto L1.
And from a tax point of view, I think the advantage of the L1 and the E2 is that it allows someone to control the extent to which you're exposed to the US tax system. If it is that you go in on the EB5 and then you get the conditional green card and then the green card, there's no control. The US tax system is going to follow you, whether you remain in the US or you leave the US and you spend time back in home country. Whereas with the L1 and E2, you can choose to not be, you can dip in and out of the US. And as long as you monitor your days, your worldwide income and assets would not necessarily be trapped in the US tax net. Paula?
Então, ele estava falando da vantagem dos impostos entre o visto L1 e o E2. E, aparentemente, o L1, se você cuidar bem do seu dinheiro, não seria taxado globalmente como os demais vistos.
Okay, thank you. So the next question we got is, Mike, do you expect any changes in the US visa regime as a result of the recent elections?
That's a good question, something that we've been asked. Many of our corporate clients and investor-based clients, and I'm always asking about this right now. Yeah, I think there will be some big changes for immigration coming up. I don't think that there's going to be too many negative changes to the audience for today, which is business investment type of clients or the business investor category. I think is probably going to be largely left alone. As it was during the first Trump administration, there weren't too many changes to EB5 or E2. You know, what can we expect for the other visas? I think that a lot of effort will be placed on undocumented individuals in the US, those residing unlawfully, and then also probably targeting some of the family-based categories that are a little bit more removed from the immediate family. So there are different categories in the US system for family members. And as you go through the system from spouse to children to parents and on down, I think one of the categories that could be targeted is the F4 family category for siblings. That category is notoriously backlogged. It can take up to 20 plus years if you come from certain countries to get through that. So there's been talk of scrapping that category, you know. So lots of different changes, I think, that are going to target areas that are not business investor focused, because the Trump administration itself has had involvement with EB5. So yeah, I think we should be okay on that front. So.
Fantastic. Paula?
Sim. A pergunta foi se o governo do Trump, agora com as eleições, se poderia afetar esses processos de visto. Ele respondeu que não acredita que tenha muitas mudanças negativas para o visto de investidor e negócios, mesmo porque o próprio governo do Trump está envolvido com o visto EB5, mas que pode impactar o sistema para imigração de familiares, principalmente de irmãos.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And the next question is, well, naturally and logically, what changes do we expect from a tax point of view? To be fair, there will be quite a number of changes, because on the, you know, as part of the actual campaign, a lot of changes have been proposed. Now, as to whether they pass through the legislative process and remain untouched, it's hardly unlikely. But generally speaking, we can expect to see a continuation of the key aspects of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which there are a lot of components of that affect internationally exposed individuals. And so we should expect that to continue. I don't want to get into too much detail unless somebody wants to. I think what has been a common question that's been thrown at us in the international tax space is, do we really expect that international taxation, so citizenship-based taxation, is going to remain, i.e. when a green card holder or US citizen spends time outside of the US, or they leave the US, they do continue to be part of the US tax system. And I think it was hinted sometime during the process, the election process, that that's going to change. Realistically, we don't expect that to change for quite a number of reasons. I think the key part of which is the information reporting part of the tax return is of considerable importance, not just to the Internal Revenue Service, but to the US Treasury and perhaps other branches of the US government as well. And I don't see them easily giving up on that. So as a result, I think that worldwide taxation is set to continue for US exposed persons who do decide to reside abroad. Paula, I know that's a lot.
Yes, that's a lot. Yes, especially because I a bit confused, but ele explicou que acredita que vai continuar no mesmo caminho que já está para o sistema de impostos, especialmente no caminho da cidadania, não acredita que vai mudar e que não esperam que grandes mudanças por inúmeras razões, mas é isso.
Okay, that's a quick version. Okay. The next question again is about tax, and for those who've just joined us, you can feel free to type your questions in the box below, and we'll get to them in the order in which we receive them if you haven't already submitted them. So the next question again is about tax, and it's about what triggers tax residency in the US. In that way, it's not too different from Brazil. So if you have income that arises from within the US, it'll be subject to US tax most times, regardless of whether you are a US taxpayer generally or not, whether you reside in the US or not. If you have US source income, it tends to be subject to US taxation. In addition, if it is you do decide to spend time in the US, there is a days count. I know that lots of other countries, including Brazil, have a days count as well. But the way in which the 183-day count happens in the US, it's somewhat unique in that you're not just counting the present year, but there's a look back period of 2 years. So it's this year plus a ratio of the days spent in the previous year and the year before. And that triggers tax residency as well. So there's the days count. And of course, your US source income will be subject to tax. And the last way is if you get that green card or US passport, then regardless of where you go and what you do, you will always be subject to US taxes. Paula?
Ok. A primeira parte ele explicou que se você tiver renda nos Estados Unidos, você vai ser taxado lá, mas que você teria descontos no Brasil, no caso. E a segunda opção seria se você conseguir o green card ou o passaporte, você seria taxado lá independente do país que você for.
Okay. Again, super short. And I'm having a look in the other platforms, and I'm not seeing any further questions. So on that note, I think we can call that, unless anyone wants to type anything out. No, okay. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. This video will be available on our website as well as on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Paula? You're on mute.
Desculpa. O vídeo vai estar disponível no YouTube. Can you repeat the last?
It'll be on YouTube, our website, and wherever you find your podcast.
Vai estar disponível no YouTube, no website e aonde tiver o podcast.
Mike, what's the best way for someone to find you?
Sure, they can contact us through our website as well, and it's www.mikedilaw.com. And there's many different brochures and descriptions of different visa categories as well. So a lot of information, and we're happy to talk to anyone who has any further questions as well.
Okay. With that, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So yeah, I think we're good to go. So what I'll do, we have everyone's email address. And so we will, once we kind of edit this, we'll send the link to them, and they'll, even though they obviously didn't show up, at least not on Zoom, maybe they're on one of the other platforms, then they can see it and they can reach out if they want to follow up.
Great, sounds good. And if whatever you need, just let me know.
I will. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, Paul.